All right. What a great day. Friends, colleagues, and visitors, welcome. It's a privilege to be with such a distinguished and varied group of people from across the country and even the hemisphere. Welcome especially to those who have not been here before. Welcome to Austin. And welcome back to the many of you who spent time here, sometimes 3 years in some cases, and sometimes more. It's an honor for us to be able to bring all of you together on this wonderful occasion. We're so proud to have one of the law school's really vital and valued centers taking a serious look at the life and work of one of our most wonderful and distinguished alumni. Our motto, of course, is that what starts here changes the world. And this conference will prove it. The title, Francis T. Sissy Farenthold, a Noble Citizen, gives you what we're here to talk about and celebrate. Our topic, our alum, has deep roots here at the UT Law School, which you'll be hearing more about this evening. Many of you know Sissy Farenthold as an icon of Texas politics. Others know her for her work promoting women's rights at the national level. Others know her for her time in academia, from adjunct law professor at Texas Southern University or the University of Houston, or to being president of Wells College. Still others know her for her work in the International Women's Peace Movement or her time as chair of the Rothko Chapel in Houston. We know her here as all of that, but we also know her as one of the most distinguished graduates of the University of Texas School of Law. Hear, hear. That means first, of course, she was a former student. She was very active here. She was an officer on the Board of Governors of the Texas Bar Association, as well as Associate Dean of Kappa Beta Phi, the world's first legal sorority. Nor has she been absent from these halls since her graduation. She's been on the Eidman stage and in the audience for many events over the years, especially since joining the advisory board of the Rapoport Center, which brings you this conference. Thank you, Sissy, for your years of service to the University of Texas. Sissy Farenthold's family has a long-standing connection to the law school, as evidenced by the fact the law library here bears her grandfather's name. We're proud to see the connection between UT Law and Sissy and her family will continue, not only, I hope, by future generations of her family attending this school, but also by a lecture series endowed in her name. I want to thank all of you who have already donated or pledged the seed money to make that happen. I also want to thank the Creekmore and Adele Faith Foundation for supporting this project, Creekmore Fath Foundation. The Creekmore Fath was also a graduate of this law school, about which we're especially proud. I understand you'll be hearing more about him and his relationship to Sissy in a little while, but we're very grateful for his sharing his legacy with us. Above all, I want to thank the great driver of the Rapoport Center, our wonderful Professor Karen Engel, who's one of the most energetic people in the entire University of Texas community. Without Karen Engel, it's very hard to imagine the Rapoport Center, let alone wonderful events like this. So, Karen, thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Dan Brinks, Associate Professor of Government, who we're very fortunate also to have teaching here at the law school, and is co-director of the Rapoport Center, without whom it is also very difficult to imagine the center or wonderful events of this kind. This gathering and the project that celebrates the launch of the website on Sissy Farenthold has all the hallmarks of a Rapoport Center event. It brings together academics, practitioners, policymakers, and activists. It considers human rights at both the local and global levels and at their intersection. And it demonstrates a strong partnership with another institution on campus, in this case, the Dolph Briscoe Center for American History. And I'll let Dan tell you more about that. Dan Brinks.
Thank you, Ward. If it's hard to imagine the center without Karen, I think it's also hard to imagine the center and events like this without the support of the law school and Ward's support. Thank you, Ward. Thank you, the law school, for all the things that you do. And welcome again then to all of you on behalf of the Rapoport Center for Human Rights and Justice at the University of Texas Law School. Thank you to those, thank you for coming. Thank you to those who are veterans of many of our other prior events, and thank you and welcome to those who are coming here for the first time. I think you'll find this a really interesting couple of days with lots of interesting conversations to take place. It's a privilege, as Ward said, to be able to convene this interesting and distinguished group to an event that is organized around the life of one of the most distinguished and interesting people you will ever meet, certainly one of the most distinguished and interesting people I have ever met. I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with Sissy over the last few years, including on a very memorable trip to Santiago, Chile, which was a lot of fun, but also invited reflection, as spending time with Sissy usually does, on the Pinochet dictatorship, time that I spent in Argentina, also living under dictatorship, and that she spent here in the U.S., sort of looking at questions of our foreign policy and how they affect other people. She's continued to do that, and it was great to be there with her. But Sissy has been part of the life of the Rapoport Center for at least 5 years, I mean, in a very vibrant way, longer than that, of course, through her participation. But this conference really is the capstone to 5 years of work. And you'll hear more about that from the person who really made that happen, from Karen Engel. In a minute, it's really been a labor of love for Karen, I think. But the results, I think, have been fantastic. They'll be evident to you when we introduce the website, when you see the videos that are about to come up. The Sissy Farenthold Papers Project, which was funded, as Ward said, by the Crickmore Pfaff Foundation more recently, has shaped the activities of the center more than any other project we've undertaken over the last 5 years. And generations of students, undergraduates, law students have come through the center, and they all leave with more or less the same phrase on their lips. They all say, "Sissy is awesome." It's the most frequent phrase you hear. I think this conference is going to show that again. Indeed, she is awesome. And one of the things you'll get to do in the course of this conference is to tell your story, to tell you, for you to tell us why you think Sissy is awesome. If you look at the back of your program, there's a little thing there that says "Share your Sissy story." We'll have a camera set up in the jury room, and you'll be able to go there and tell your story, tell how Sissy may have affected your life or what experiences you've shared with her. But this conference is really not just about Sissy, not just about Sissy Farenthold or her life. It's not just about the past of Texas politics or national politics, or even a retelling of the events in which she was such an important protagonist. In fact, what we're going to do over the next day and a half or so is to use her life and her incredible protagonism on all these issues to really open windows into topics that continue to be of incredible relevance today. We'll begin today with a short series of films about her life compiled by filmmaker Joe Bailey. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a second. The films were compiled from interviews and from materials that are included in the Briscoe collection. We'll also hear from Sissy herself in an interview conducted by Evan Smith. And tomorrow we'll have a series of panels organized around various dimensions, various issues on which Sissy had substantial leadership. LGBT rights, reproductive rights, issues that she took onto the national stage, peace, disarmament, and the international women's movement, and problems of corruption and strong-arming leadership in Texas politics. Just naming these issues is evidence that they haven't gone away, that we still have to think about them, and that there's more to say. So the panelists will take their inspiration from some of the papers that are included in the collection. The papers are linked from the conference website, so you could actually see them if you want. But the panel chairs will describe the documents for you if you haven't read them. The documents are really an incredible set of papers, fiery speeches about things like the need to extend equal rights to the gay community, speeches about why it's important not just to guarantee reproductive rights on paper, but to make sure that the services that are required to make those rights effective are actually available to actual women. A lot of issues that continue to be in our newspapers and in our politics today. I think you'll find that we have a lot to say about these issues over the next day or so. We'll have time to have discussions after the panels, and we should have time in between at reception this evening and at other spaces to have more intimate conversations about that. That brings me to the first event of the day. The first installment of the conference is a real treat. Joe Bailey has been working closely with Karen and others at the Center to produce a series of films about the life of Sissy Farenthold and reflections by different people on some of the events in that life. Joe's a filmmaker. He's probably best known for a documentary called Incendiary, the Willingham case, about a case that most of you are probably familiar with, about the conviction and execution of Cameron Willingham and the state's refusal to entertain questions about the validity of the evidence that convicted him. His film has won a series of awards, including the South by Southwest Lewis Black Award, the Innocence Network Journalism Award, and several others. Joe is also has a connection to UT. He's a Plan 2 lecturer here at UT. And perhaps most importantly of all, he's a graduate of the University of Texas Law School. So, Joe.
Thanks so much. All right. Well, I'm going to keep my comments brief. I really just want to restrict it to the film, really, if I can. But I really just want to thank everyone who worked on this, everyone at the Rapoport Center. I owe a lot to the law school in my life. It's where I met Alice. It's where I met Karen, is one of my favorite professors, and now it's where I met Sissy. And it's been such a tremendous honor to get to know Sissy and to work with so many talented and committed and passionate people to do our best to document her in these films. An awful lot of material is produced out of production, and you're only going to see a very, very, very small slice of that. And maybe that's a hint that we need to be working on a feature, but I don't know. We'll watch these first. But thank you all so much for coming out to join us here. This will be a really wonderful conference. And without further ado, I don't think we can dim the lights, but perhaps we can. I'm not really sure about that. Is that safe? Okay. Well, here we go.